Well, let's bring in my fabulous panel. Former Premier of Queensland, Campbell Newman, and social commentator extraordinaire, Prue MacSween from Sydney. I'm going to get into some border issues because there's border stoushes up and down the eastern seaboard and, of course, over in WA. New South Wales and Victoria announced today that the border will stay closed, Prue, because the Berejiklian government, quite rightly, I think, isn't convinced. The Victorian health authorities have got their contact tracing up to speed and where it should be, despite all the protestations of the Premier. We can't even leave Melbourne and go to country Victoria. I guess until the state opens up, you wouldn't be opening up the borders between us and New South Wales, would you?
Well, you wouldn't, logically. I just think you must be about to crack a bottle of champagne at 11:59. I mean, hallelujah, the man has come to his senses a little bit. But you cannot blame New South Wales for not trusting the contact tracing. The problem is that when he was Health Minister, Daniel Andrews didn't get his act together. You compare what is happening in Victoria, where they don't have local health responsibilities. In Australia, in New South Wales, we have local contact tracers all around our state, and that means that they can get onto it and do a much more efficient job. It's not happening in Victoria, and it can't happen because of the way the system operates. So why would we risk what we have achieved in New South Wales? And it's sad because we'd all love to go to Victoria soon, but frankly, we just can't afford it. And sadly, until the emergency powers are taken away from Andrews, there's a strong chance that he could commit these draconian lockdown laws again.
Look, you're absolutely right, and it is absolute matter of fact that there is a digital system being built in Victoria, but the other part of the system is still literally spreadsheets, bits of paper, fax machines, and I've had that on good authority from people inside the system working on it, and that's, I think, where the Victorian community has still got concerns. Now we're coming out of restrictions. Can we stay on the COVID-safe pathway that the rest of the country is on? Campbell Newman, Peter Beattie, one of your alumni, former Premier alumni, he waded in today on the Queensland border wall. Let's have a listen.
Whether it's Anastasia or Deb Frecklington, whoever wins, they're going to be faced with an economic tsunami. Not a good one. So they've got to work out how to go from here. What I'm saying is, OK, what was done in the past, let's give everyone a big tick for that. Let's move forward. And the way to move forward is to open up the borders.
You two are on a unity ticket there, Campbell.
We are indeed, and if only he'd spoken a little bit earlier, he could have been front and centre at the Labor Party campaign launch a week or so ago. I mean, apparently they showed a video of me calling for the border to be open. Pity Peter wasn't there side by side with me. But look, seriously, the borders do have to be open, and I guess I've got a slightly different perspective on what you're just talking about with Victoria. Yes, I accept if Victoria doesn't have confidence to allow people to travel internally from, say, Melbourne into the regions, that's an issue. It does show a lack of confidence in their system. But to be consistent, I mean, Queensland is not trusting New South Wales. New South Wales is not trusting Victoria. And this is what it comes down to. If the strategy is elimination, I could understand the stance. But if it's flattening the curve, and I've heard no people really suggest officially that it's anything different, then really we have to live with this, and ultimately we have to open the borders. We need to get on with it, and we need great contact tracing, and indeed we need almost real-time testing. And there are technologies around now that allow for fast testing, and we should be seeing them dramatic rollout of those as soon as possible.
Yeah, look, I agree with you. It's a bureaucratic turf war in the moment between these private contractors in Victoria brought in to build the digital system, and all of the, old-time bureaucrats who are patch protective about a system that has let Victoria down, but they don't want to admit that's happened, and ministers who are not doing their job by driving the implementation. I mean, too many of them, Campbell, you know this from your time in government, think they make a decision and somehow it just gets implemented by magic. They've got to drive it to conclusion.
Yeah, absolutely. The only way you get things done as a politician, and I say this to any who may be watching, is you have to drive things. And sadly, most of our politicians today, irrespective of political persuasion, do not get it. That's
Right.
Yeah, that's what has to happen. And these things won't happen if you just sit back and expect it to be done. You've got to drive the change.
Prue, I'm sorry I'm going to give this one to you. I'll leave Campbell out of it. But I was struck by this ad for tampons, the brand TAMPAX.
Unbelievable.
They put it out in the United States. It was tweeted out. It's been absolutely slammed and condemned online. It says, fact, not all women have periods. Also a fact, not all people with periods are women. Let's celebrate the diversity of all people who bleed. Now, for God's sake, I am a woman. I'm not a person who bleeds. We're sick of this, aren't we, Prue?
Totally sick of it. And, you know, to state the bleeding obvious, women have periods, not men, not gender diverse people. Women do. And I've got to say, it ain't all it's cracked up to be. But for God's sake, aren't we sick of, you know, companies like TAMPAX or whoever they are, Tampon or whatever they're called, TAMPAX, you know, and other companies that are so woke and are trying to rewrite everything from biology now. I mean, I suggest, unless they bring out a new product, which is like a bandage, so if men bleed, they can put it on. I mean, it's absolutely absurd. And frankly, you know, TAMPAX, as far as I'm concerned, is yesterday's product. You know, I think it's
that's exactly
insulting.
right. It'll lose more business than it'll gain. It'll lose more business than it'll gain. Campbell Newman, Prue MacSween, thank you as always.
Thanks, Peter.
Thanks, Peter.